Okay, good morning, grade 9 students, and welcome to our third lesson for this quarter. So, today we will be talking about punctuation marks and how to use them. Okay, so some of you, this may be a new topic, but sa uban, it may be just a review. So, just go with us through this lesson, and we will learn and relearn and unlearn things about punctuation marks and how to use them. Okay, see, so let's start. Let's start with this slide. Okay. Now, I want you to see the difference between the two sentences. The big panda eats, shoots, and leaves. The big panda eats, shoots, and leaves. What do you think? What do you think of the sentence? The first and I mean, what do you think of the second sentence? Diba? The second sentence would sound kanang funny. Diba? Kaya the big panda eats. Nikaon ng sa first sentence kay the big panda ate. Nikaon siya og shoots and leaves. That's the main idea of the first sentence there. Okay? But in the second sentence, if makita ninyo the big panda eats, shoots, and then leaves. Ni hawa. So, the meaning really changes. Okay? Here's another kanang kuan. Another trick sentence for you. Okay? Oh, kani, very common. Let's eat grandma. Og let's eat grandma. Have you seen the comma there really makes a difference? 'Di ba? Kay maingon ta nga, let's eat grandma o let's eat grandma. So in the first sentence there, you are actually asking or you're actually telling the people around you to eat your grandma, 'di ba? But in the seconds, you are addressing your grandmother nga mangaon na mo, let's eat. Okay? So that's the difference of the comma there. Another one. Woman without her man is nothing. That's how the first sentence would sound like. But in the second sentence, it would sound like woman without her man is nothing. Diba? So lain kaayo sila og meaning, diba? And the only thing that is making a difference is the punctuation marks that are being used. Okay? Kay lahi-lahi man ang punctuation mark. Especially here in the first sentence, mo na nga woman without her man is nothing. So that means importante ang man daw sa laki. But in the second sentence, the meaning changes because of the punctuation marks being used. Okay? So tanawan ninyo diri, woman without her man is nothing. So there's a very big difference between the two sentences, and this is why punctuation marks are very important, especially the correct usage or ang sakto nga paggamit sa punctuation marks. Okay? So here's our first punctuation mark that we are going to learn. Okay? You have learned this one as inyo ni nakatunan as period, but a better term for period is a full stop. Okay? So a full stop now, when are we going to use a full stop or a period? Okay? So we are going to use a full stop to end a statement, an order, and polite request. Okay, so the undersea experiment ended. So that's a statement. We end it with a full stop. Swim to the surface. You're actually ordering someone, but you are using you're ending the sentence with a full stop or a period. Please get me a glass of water. It's a polite request. So, mao gyapon. Use the full stop. Again, use a full stop to end a statement, order, and polite request. Now, the second one, we are going to use full stops for certain abbreviations, diba? Okay, we have the doctor, and the shortcut for the doctor is the DR, diba? DR, and then we put the full stop at the end. October, OCT, or OCT, and then period. Shortcut sa junior, JR, and then period. Shortcut sa kilogram, kg, and then period. So on and so forth. Okay, so we use a full stop for certain abbreviations. Okay, now the next punctuation mark is the question mark, and obviously question marks used to end a direct question. Okay, now the direct question may be a full direct question, or it may be a quotation inside the quotation mark. So look at the examples here. When did you last see your cat? So that means it's a question mark and it's a direct question. So you are ending it with a question mark. But in the second one, in the third one, it's part of a quotation mark. So what are we going to do if we're putting it inside the quotation mark, which we will also be talking about later on, quotation marks. But let's talk first with the question mark. Unsaon man ni nato? So, if question mark gani ang naa sa quotation mark, if the question marks are inside the quotation marks, just put the question mark inside. No need for any punctuation mark. Okay? So, like that. What are we having for dinner? His son asked. So, no need for the comma and everything. Okay? Now, let's say for example here in the third sentence. The third sentence is a title of the book. Is he living or is he dead? Okay? So, if it's a part of the title of a book, you need to include kung unsay punctuation marks sa book. Okay? So, I have not read Mark Twain's Is He Living or Is He Dead? That's the title of the book, and the title of the book has a question mark, so we need to include the question mark in the quotation marks. And that's the ending. Dili na ta magbutang, we are not going to add a full stop after the sentence. Okay? Now, let's go to the exclamation mark or the exclamation point. Okay? So that's a symbol for the exclamation mark, and we are going to use the exclamation mark, of course, to end an exclamatory sentence or an exclamation. So let's say, for example, help. Okay? Also, exclamation marks, aside from exclamatory sentences, we can also use exclamation point for sentences nga magpakita og emotions. Those that show kanang very intense emotions. Let's say, for example, there's a mouse in the kitchen. So, murag signaratol, di ba? So, there's a mouse in the kitchen. Murag ipis! O, di ba? Same ra, ana. So, be quiet and don't move suddenly. It's an exclamation point, but grabe ang emotion here. Kaya nakagawas, naagi ilaga. So, pwede gyud ninyo mabutangan o exclamation mark. Also here in the next sentence, I hate mice. Okay? That's supposed to be a declarative sentence, but there's so much emotion there. Okay? So if there's emotion, there's too much emotion in the sentence, we can put an exclamation mark. Okay? Now, a comma. Okay? Now this is where it gets longer kay daghan kaayo og gamit ang comma. Okay? A comma has a lot of usages. Okay? So let's see. Here, the first rule in using a comma is we use comma or commas to separate a direct quotation that is a full sentence from any explanatory material. Okay? So remember, we are only going to use comma if ang naa sulod or ang gi-quote nga material is a sentence. Okay? Let's say for example, wisdom is walking with God, comma, said, and then comma and then close quotations, said Paul. Okay? Here puts a second sentence. Yes, comma. Di ba na naputol ang quotation mark, pwede na natong buhaton. Okay? And as you have observed also, especially in your books, if you're going to read books, sometimes the quotation marks are separated by kanang explanatory material. Okay? So, yes, comma. He answered, comma, I know. Okay? That's mao na tong buhaton sa. That's what we are going to use sa comma, especially if separated ang quotation mark. Another example, he replied. So before the quotation mark starts, okay, we use the comma. Okay? So he replied. Make sure you put that in your heart. Okay? The second one is we use a comma before a coordinating conjunction in a compound sentence. Okay? So I think you know what are the the coordinating conjunction. The coordinating conjunction are the fanboys, diba? For, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. Okay? So those are the fanboys. Okay? Now, before the coordinating conjunction, we need to add a comma. Just like for example here, Jesus loves me, comma, and he died for me. Okay? So that is the second use of our comma before coordinating conjunctions. Next, the third one. Use a comma to separate words, phrases, or clauses in a series. Okay? So, pwede gyud ninyo gamiton ang comma to separate words, especially if in a series or daghan siya gi-mention, you can add a comma. Let's say for example, we stopped, looked, and waited. Okay, so they are doing actually three actions here. They are stopping, they are looking, and they are waiting. Okay? And it has to be separated by a comma. So tanawan ninyo ang comma nga gigamit nato dira. We have the stopped, comma. We have the looked, comma. And we have looked, comma, and waited. Okay? So ang kanang comma here, if you can see here, let me move on my my point pointer. If you can see the comma here before the coordinating conjunction, that's what we call an Oxford comma. Okay, uh, so that's a trivia from that's a trivia. Okay, so Oxford commas are very useful para dili maglibog ang inyong sentence. Okay, another example: the hot comma blazing sun burned our skin. So two words in a series, the hot and the blazing, both describing the sun. We need to use a comma to separate the two. Okay? Now, I'll tell you why Oxford commas are important. Ang inani ni siya, okay? Oxford commas, pareha ng kuan gyud. I ate I ate I ate orange juice, toast, and bread. Okay? So, ang kanang kung dili ta mo butang Oxford comma, mo yung tag I ate so basically, when we have that sentence, I ate orange juice. Sorry. Yun na ha. Later on sa ato ang klase, I will explain to you what Oxford commas are. Okay? So when we have that synchronous class, I will explain to you. Remind me. Okay? I will explain to you what Oxford commas are. What Oxford commas are. I don't have a good suggestion. I don't have a good sentence right now, but I will give it to you once we have our synchronous class. Okay? So the next rule for using a comma is use a comma to set off non-essential words like yes, no, therefore, however. So kana mga non-essential words kana mga iyon ana, mga instead, mga yes, no. So we need to separate them. We need to set them off using a comma. Also, appositives. If you remember, katong functions of a noun, di ba nag-talk man tag appositives? And katong mga appositives, di ba naaman sila yung comma? So, if we're going to use an appositive, we need to use a comma. Okay? And nouns of direct address, kanang manawag. Okay? So, let's say for example here, yes, I will. I'm coming, Dad. So, ang noun of direct address diri kay si Dad. So, I'm coming, comma, Dad. Mr. Bull, comma, the lawyer, which is our appositive, is here. So that's our fourth rule in using a comma. Now, number 5. Use commas to separate and set off parts of an address and parts of a date. Okay? So, especially if taas ka inyong address, if you're living in a subdivision, you're most likely going to use a comma to separate the lot, the block, the zone, the subdivision, the barangay, the city. So, nagunay kama-kama. Okay? Also, we use a comma to set off parts of a date. So, February 3, 2020. 2021 munta na. Ready na lang. Okay? So, that's our 5th rule in using a comma. Use a comma to set off parts of an address and parts of a date. Okay? Next one. Use a comma after the salutation of a friendly letter and the complementary closing of all letters. Okay? So, if friendly letter, we are going to use a comma, di ba? And complementary closing sa tanang letters, we're going to use a comma as well. After that, let's say for example, sincerely yours. Yours truly. So, after ana, we're going to use a comma right away. Okay? Number 7. Use a comma to set off introductory adverb clause. So, as you can see, kanang mga introductory adverb clause, kanang mga atong di ba we talked about adverbs last time? And then the adverbs are actually describing we will be ready. Let's say for example, kaniyatong example sentence, when MacArthur comes, we will be ready. So, if when will they be ready? When MacArthur comes. So that phrase there is actually an introductory adverb clause because it's an adverb describing when ma-ready. Okay? So, we need to set them off using a comma. Okay? So, let's say another example, because the pandemic is closing down businesses, people lost their jobs. So, that's an introductory adverb clause as well. So, we need to use commas sa ilaha. Okay? Next, number 8. Use a comma to set off an introductory participial phrase. Now, from the word participial phrase, okay? Unsa man yung mga participial, di ba kinds of verbal man siya? We have the participial, we have the gerund and the infinitive, di ba? Gerund, participial and infinitives, okay? And ang kaning participial ending ni siya og mga ing, if you remember. Gerund, including niya ang ing, okay? Kaya ang gerund ing ram gito siya. Ang participial, it can be ing, pwede pug mga ed, okay? But to set off introductory participial phrase as well as introductory prepositional phrases, okay, of four or more words. So, let's say for example, atong first sentence is an introductory participial phrase, okay? So, hearing the school bell, Gina hurries to her home. Now, we have the prepositional phrase in the next example, during the nationwide lockdowns, okay? So, that one, more than four or more words, we need to separate it with a comma. Very good. Okay? So make sure you take note of that. Number 9. Use a comma to set off a non-essential phrase or clause. Na napunta ning non-essential. Unsay pasabot aning non-essential phrase or clause? Now, it's a phrase or clause which can be omitted without changing the meaning of the main clause. Pwede ra gyud nato siya tanggalon. Okay? Bisag kwaon pa ni nato ang sa kaniadtong example, if you're going to take off the which is near our school, the sentence will still make sense. Okay? Maunay meaning sa non-essential. Kung kwaon ta nang kanang words between the two commas there, the sentence will still make sense. Kaya if we're going to remove which is near our school, the sentence will be Country Mall will be our meeting place for our first meet up tomorrow. Okay? So that's it. The sentence will still make sense. Okay? Good. Nasabtan na ninyo ha? Next. We go to the semicolon. Okay? The semicolon is, as you can see, it's a, nasa full stop sa babaw, but it's a comma sa ubos niya. Okay? And we will know the various usages sa semicolon. First, okay? Usara gid ay. Here's the rule for the semicolon. Use a semicolon between two or more independent clauses of a compound sentence if those are not joined by a coordinating conjunction such as and, but, or nor. Okay? Now, to make this simpler, mugamit ta og semicolon if walay coordinating conjunction nga gigamit. Okay? And we are going to connect two independent clauses. Okay? Like here in our example, many students have finished the exit ticket. Only a few of them have not finished it. Instead of adding their end, kanang in place of the semicolon, magbutang tag end dira. We did not use the word end, A-N-D. Instead, we put the semicolon, and that is fine, okay? We can use semicolons as substitutes for coordinating conjunctions. Okay? Nasabtan ra? Now, let's go to colon. Dili ni colon ha? Dili ni colon nga naa sa downtown, but this is a colon, okay? So, a colon is two kanang full stops. One nga naa sa babaw and one nga naa sa ubos, okay? Now, when are we going to use a colon? We use a colon after the salutation of a business letter. Okay? So, kanang mga dear sir, dear ma'am, to whom it may concern. Diba? We use a colon after the salutation of a business letter. Number 2, use a colon to introduce list when they follow such words as the following, as follows, these, an example, okay? So if ang list kay nagsunod aning mga kanina mga words, then we can use a colon. So just like in the example, bring the following, colon, linens, bedding, flashlight, and compass. Okay, so that's one use of a colon. Number 3, use a colon to separate hours from minutes and chapters from verses. Okay, so obviously kabalo naman sa time, di ba? When we say time, let's say for example 10:30 a.m., we put a colon between the 10 and the 30 to separate the hours and the minutes. Same put in biblical chapters and verses. Okay, so we also use a colon between the chapter and the verses. Next, quotation marks. Okay, now quotation marks obviously are kanang quoted na mga material. Okay, now use quotation marks to indicate direct speech or quotation. So let's say for example kanang what they call this, you are actually quoting someone. You're actually getting the exact words of someone. Let's say for example, do pandas eat meat? One visitor asked. Okay, so kaning do pandas eat meat, this is the exact question of the said visitor. Okay, that's why gibutang siya og quotation marks. Okay, and instead of ka mga gigamit kung unsay punctuation mark nga gigamit, mao poy atong ibutang sa ato ang sentence. Dili ta nga inig after sa question mark, then napagyud tay ka ng quotation mark, then magkama pagyud ta. That is wrong. Okay, so kung unsa inyo nakita dira, that is how you are going to punctuate a sentence nga mag-una ang quotation mark. Sir Kevin, what if uwahi ang quotation mark? Okay, so this is what you are going to do. So one visitor asked, comma, and then ang quotation marks dayon, or ang quoted material, do pandas eat meat? Okay, so mao na siya ang ato ang usage of quotation marks to indicate speech or quotation. Next usage, sorry. When a run-in quotation contains quotation mark, quotation inception ta diri. Okay, so let's digest this one properly. When a run-in quotation contains a quotation marks within the quoted material itself, that means ang inyong gi-quote nga material kay naapod siya quotation marks. Again, if your quoted material also has a quotation mark, use single quotation marks in their place. Instead na katong duha, usa ra inyong gamiton. Just like here in this sentence. Okay? So, the author's final argument is less convincing. Colon. Explanatory material man na ang colon. When Brown writes, interpreting a matter through a structural lens, he opens up himself to the same criticism he made earlier in his own paper. So, ang kanang interpreting the matter through a structuralist lens nga quoted material is nakabutang na siya as double quotation marks in the original work. Okay? But then, gi-quote naman po ni nga material, so kwaon na to, usahon ra na to ka quotation mark. Okay? So, single quotation marks. Okay? If you have questions of this, please get inside our room, and I will explain to you unsa ning single quotation marks. Okay? Next, we use quotation marks to refer to a specific word or letter. Okay? So, if you want to refer, more to say, sorry, next pa din na. It refers to a specific word or letter. Okay? So, let's say, tanaw na to ang itong example. In the previous sentence, letter was properly spelled with 2 T's. So, if you want to refer to a specific something, we need to use quotation marks. Next, mao ni akong giingon. Use quotation marks in scare quotes. Unsa man ning scare quotes, Sir Kevin? To cast doubt on a word or phrase. And in emphasis. Mao na ning mga di ba? Ana biya sila na mag-date baya daw sila. So you're casting doubt on a word or a phrase. Ana biya sila. They said they are going on a kanang kuan, on a laag. Laag raman daw to ila. Instead nga nag-date na gyud to gyud. Naguldingan-suldingan sa gito. Friends raman me. Oh, so mao na, we can use quotation marks in that certain context, okay? So to cast doubt on a word or phrase, okay? Or in emphasis. Just like here in our example, he rarely spoke of the incident. So that means gi-emphasize nasa gikuan nga emphasis na sige emphasize ka incident. He rarely spoke of the incident that caused him to leave his previous employer. Okay? So mauna siya ang at gamit sa quotation marks. Now let's go to ellipsis. Okay? Ang ellipsis consists of three full stops with a space between them. Okay? Dili full stop nga gasumpay or together sila, they are separated by a space. Okay? Sana all mangitag space. Okay? So that's our ellipsis. Now, when are we going to use ellipsis? Now, we use ellipsis to indicate an omission. Okay? Now, as what I've told you, separate ang atong ellipsis. The full stop or the period has a single space between the next full stop or the next period. So, we use ellipsis to indicate an omission na ay gikuha nga word from the quoted material or from anything na ay gikuha. Let's say that look at our examples here. I learned this ellipsis, so na ay omit dira, na gikuha dira na mga words that if one advances confidently in the direction of his dreams, na napod siya gikuha. Kay ang purpose aning ellipsis kay para kung unsay main idea, maura po'y masuwat ninyo. Okay? So that's the purpose of an ellipsis. So he will meet with a success unexpected in common hours. Okay? Next, Thoreau believes that if one advances confidently in the direction of his dreams and endeavors to live the life which he has imagined, ellipsis, so naigikuha nga material, there is a material that is omitted, that is removed, he will live with a license of a higher order of beings. Okay? So that's the purpose of an ellipsis. Okay? Now let's go to parenthesis. Hello, Sir Kevin, apa din yung parenthesis, Sir Kevin? Yes, parenthesis is actually a punctuation mark. And let's determine unsay usage sa parenthesis. Okay? Now, we can use parenthesis to provide additional information. Okay? So, the driver bought a new watch. His old watch had stopped working. So, you are actually having an additional material. So, you can use parenthesis in doing that explanation. Okay? If you don't really want to put that one in a sentence, you can put that one in parenthesis. Okay? The next use of a parenthesis is to provide clarification. Okay? So if you want to clarify something, let's say for example, naay something vague sa imong sentence, you can actually put the referent or kung unsay imong gi-refer to provide clarification. Here in this example, we verified his JHS diploma, but his SHS diploma remains unconfirmed. Okay? Pasabot anang anong gibutang ang kanang UC class of 2022 is that iyang gi-clarify kung unsa nga diploma ang iyang nagraduatean pag junior high niya. Okay? So that is how we can provide clarification. Okay? So we verified his JHS diploma, open close parenthesis, UC class of 2022. But his SHS diploma remains unconfirmed. So that is how we are going to provide clarification. Okay? Next, apostrophe. Okay? Apostrophe is tulo ay ang gamit. It's used for possession, it's used for pluralization, and it's used for contraction. First, let's go to contraction. Okay? Use an apostrophe to represent a missing letter in the contraction. Diba? So, kana mga wasn't, mga let's, mga I'll, mga won't, mga wouldn't, kana siya, it's a contraction. As you all, if you still remember, contractions are kana mga gipamubo na mga word, diba? Kaya ang kanang wasn't, it's the longer version of wasn't is was not, diba? Ang kanang let's kay let's not, diba? Let us. Okay? Ang kanang I'll dira, I will. So that means we can use an apostrophe to represent a missing letter in the contraction. Okay? Number 2, use an apostrophe to mark a noun's possession or ownership of something. Again, use an apostrophe to mark a noun's possession or ownership of something. So if you want to indicate that you own something, you can use an apostrophe. Let's say for example, the lawyer's fees, oh, 'di ba? So that means kinsa mang fees sa lawyers, 'di ba? So we put apostrophe. Same pud sa week's vacation. So, yun na. But Sir Kevin, what if daghan nga lawyer? What if daghan nga weeks? So unsaon ni namo pagbutang sa apostrophe? Okay. First ninyong buhaton is you're going to pluralize it first. So the plural of lawyer is lawyers, 'di ba? What's the plural of week? The plural of week is weeks, 'di ba? And then after we plural, we put the apostrophe at the end of the word. Just like in our example, sometimes justice is unattainable because the good lawyers have excessive lawyers apostrophe fees. Okay, so that means ang ilang sa mga lawyers, ang fees nila excessive. Okay, all I need right now is a 3 weeks vacation. Okay, so how many weeks imo kinahanglan nun? 3. That's why we put the apostrophe there kay plural naman ang weeks. Okay? And lastly, we use an apostrophe to pluralize certain abbreviations, letters or nouns that are used as nouns. Let's say for example, mayon ani be sure to cross your T's, letter T's, and dot your letter I's. Okay? So, you are there's a certain certain letter nga imuhang gi-refer to, so you can use an apostrophe to pluralize them. Okay? Do we have more yeses than nos, 'di ba? Di ba musuwat nga yeses, 'di ba? Y-E-S-E-S. We cannot also write an O-E-S as in nose, 'di ba? So we can pluralize them by adding an apostrophe. Okay? Now, let's go to hyphen. Okay? This is where some of you are not really familiar at. Now, how are we going to use the hyphen? Okay? Now, use a hyphen to write compound numbers between 21 and 99 and in compound fractions. Sir Kevin, nagmath naman ka. Yes, nana say component sa math. Okay? Use an hyphen to compound numbers, okay, between 21 and 99 and in compound fractions. So, the bucket is 2/3 full, so naatay hyphen dira. I've got 89 assignments for the previous quarter. So, sulod man siya sa 99, so we can use a hyphen. Okay? Next, use a hyphen in a compound word used as an adjective before a noun. Okay? So, this is very important. Kinahanglan before siya sa noun. Okay? So, we use a hyphen in a compound word used as an adjective before a noun. Let's say, for example, here, a well-known author wrote this book. Diba? So, it's an adjective. Ang kanang well-known dire is an adjective describing the author. Okay? But here, before the noun raman ang butangan na to og hyphen. Kung after na siya sa noun, even though if it's an adjective, dili na ta mo gamit og hyphen. We're not going to use a hyphen after the noun. Okay? Here's atong but. This author is well known. No more hyphen because the adjective is after already the noun it is describing. Okay? So I hope you get the difference between the two. Okay? A well-known author wrote his book, but this author is well known. No hyphen. Okay? Kay after man siya sa noun. Next, number 3. Use a hyphen after un, ex, or none when followed by a proper noun. Okay? So, only kung mag-follow siya og proper noun, then that's the time that we are going to use a hyphen. Just like here in our example, a non-Filipino. So, proper noun man ang Filipino, and then iyang word kay non man, so non, hyphen, Filipino. So, a non-Filipino is not allowed entry to the Philippines over fears of the new virus mutation. Okay? So I hope that is clear. Use it after the words X, un, and none, followed by a proper noun. Okay? Next, number 4. Use a hyphen to show the syllable division of a word at the end of the line. Dili kayo ni nato magamit kay kung when we type automatically the word moves, 'di ba? But let's say for example you are writing, okay? And then there's no more space after the paper rag. Tumoy na sa paper niyo masuwatan. So what's the rule there? You need to know the syllabic division of a word, okay? And that's the time you can cut the word, butangan ninyong hyphen, and then you move to the next line. Okay, just like here in our example, ako gining gituyo. Okay, when I type this one, the text automatically adjusts. Okay, so ako rin gituyo. So to determine the syllable divisions of a word, check your dictionary. Okay, so una man ang syllable nga dic sa dictionary. So dic and then hyphen, then dictionary dayon. Okay? So I hope that is clear. That you're going to use this one especially when you write. Okay? Now, dash. Finally, I think this is the last punctuation mark that we are going to learn today. Now, a dash. Now, it's longer than a hyphen. Okay? A hyphen is atong balikan ng hyphen ha. Ay, sorry. A hyphen is a short one. Okay? Nag-abot na to sa dash. A dash is longer. Okay? So, let's see unsay mga gamit sa dash. What are the rules in using a dash? Okay? Now, use a dash to give off special emphasis to non-essential or explanatory material. Okay? So, it can replace commas, parentheses, and colons. So, instead of using this, you can use a dash. Okay? So, let's say, for example, sa itong first example, when Christ comes, and it may be soon, will you be ready? So, that's a non-essential material. Ang kanang it may be soon. Kay, you can remove that one and the sentence would still make sense. Okay? Same thing with all the other examples that we have here. When the car was finally arrived, nearly 3 months after it was ordered, she decided she no longer wanted it. So when we remove that one, the sentence would still make sense. The same with the other examples that we have. So we can use a dash to give special emphasis to non-essential or explanatory material. Okay? Next, use a dash to express a span or range of numbers, dates, or time. Okay? So, pwede na yun ninyo gamiton ang dash, the longer one, okay, to indicate a span or a range. Let's say, for example, you will find this material in chapters 8 to 12. The teacher holds office hours every weekdays, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. So, you can use a dash there. Okay? So, I hope you've learned something. I hope you took down notes of the rules that you are na kinahanglan ninyong i-learn for the punctuation marks, and make sure you take down notes kay we're going to use this one in our exercise. Thank you everyone and God bless you.